Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Very nice. Our speaker today is Reverend Angela Geary. And Reverend Angela has spoken here before, and she always gives a very thoughtful and inspiring message. So please join me in welcoming her back.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody. As always, it's so good to be back and see you all. Thank you, Jack. Great talk. Great, I say talk because you just sang my whole talk, pretty much, but that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, my talk title is Joy in the Midst of It All. And there's a little bit of a joke, I guess, of a doctor tells a man that he thinks he really needs to go and see a psychologist. And the man goes to the psychologist, and the psychologist is there. He's got his notepad, and his pen, and he's asking the man, so, how are you doing? He said, oh, I'm doing great. And he said, how's your health? My health is really fine, doing well, nothing wrong with my health. How are your finances? It's great. I just got a promotion. All is well. What about career? Career is really good. As I said, I just got a promotion. Family life is happening. And he said, I just have to say, overall, I'm doing great, and I'm feeling, happy. And the psychologist sort of is frowning and scribbling notes down frantically, and he kind of looks up at him and said, how long have you been like this? So, the reality of joy, sometimes, it's easy to get caught up in anything but that, right? Nothing wrong with seeing psychologists and therapists and practitioners and all of that. And it's so easy to get caught up in, what's wrong, and forgetting that joy is our inherent birthright. And that it's really crucial to our sense of well-being, I think, especially in the midst of suffering, especially in the midst of challenging times. It's a way of helping us through. It's a grounding. It's a way that lifts up the vibration, when we're really when things are rocky and rough. We're really needing that element of joy to carry us through. It serves a crucial purpose, gives us a sense of survival, Viktor Frankl said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. And he was a model of that, right? And really, if we look throughout history, during World War II in London and places that were getting bombed, there were dancing, that people gathered together to dance, to go to comedy shows. The Sikhs talk about dealing with all their oppression and all the stuff that they went through dancing, through music, through singing. We look at indigenous cultures, no matter what has gone on throughout the decades, no matter what's going on now, that idea of celebrating joy is alive. It's so important because it's an inner state. It's a state of being. It's not dependent on what's going on out there. We can find joy in the midst of it. Sometimes, we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? It's like we have to pursue it. It's something to be grabbed from out there or over there. And what we know, I know I'm just telling you all what you already know, we're just reminding each other here, right, is that it's an inside job, it's an inner journey to find that joy. And if we're constantly pursuing it out there, then we can't be on two paths simultaneously. We can't be looking inward and outward. So when we're so busy looking outward, I think we forget, there's that state I can come back to. Joy, I think it's Ernest Holmes says, joy is our inherent birthright. We are born of infinite spirit, who is all joy, all freedom, all peace, all love. And we are that. That's actually our natural state, right? Our natural state is joy. And it can only really happen in the breath right here, right now. We have to be fully present, I think, to fully experience joy. It's not, I'll be happy when. How often, do we feel that or think that, and the when never comes? Because when we say, I'll be happy when, we're in a space, a state of scarcity and lack. And like there's something missing in my life right now, or in our life right now. We're waiting for something. It's here, in the moment we're having right now, in the breath we take, in singing along with Jack, right? In the beauty of the ocean that some of us may have been blessed to drive and have a glimpse at this morning, right? It's in the beauty of the fog that's rolled in a little bit to cool things off. It can be found in each and every moment. Somebody said, I think I read this on Facebook or somewhere, who I am became rooted in becoming someone else. Who I am became rooted in becoming someone else. It's this dissatisfaction with life. And really, we are conditioned, we are fed, if you look at the commercials, which we can't help but look at sometimes, right? And the advertising, whether it's soap or a new car or a weight loss drug or God knows what these days, right? There seems like there is no holds barred with what we advertise and commercial, but they're all geared towards you'll be happier when. You'll be happier when. There's, the car commercials, of the happy family and joyous and free, and it's all because they got this new car. So even though all of us on this room have been on the path and we know joy is an inside job, I think we can't help but be swayed a little by all of that, and swayed by the idea that happiness is somehow something we have to grab for. Okay. This is from the Upanishads, the Hindu great book of song, or all is whole and complete and perfect and divine, infinite completeness. When you remove anything from infinity, that which you've removed is whole, complete, perfect, and divine. And that which remains is perfect, whole, complete, and divine. So mathematically, right, that makes sense. Infinity is always infinity. If I take infinity and divide it by 2, I still get infinity, right? If I divide infinity by 7 million, it doesn't really matter. Still going to get infinity. If I have infinity and minus 10 million, I'm going to get infinity. And this is a way of understanding ourselves. We have been created not just by spirit, but we are of spirit. We are of spirit. We come from that infinite source, right? We are that, we could say, which has been removed from infinity. Although I don't think we really have been. There's a part of us still in there, but nothing. There is nothing that says anything about the divine being finite. Spirit is infinite, infinite joy, infinite peace, infinite wholeness. And we came from that. And nothing and no thing can shift that in us. We're whole, complete, perfect, divine, joyous beings. And you know, Eckhart Tolle talks about the joy of being. Joy is a state of awareness. It's a state. And we reach that state, I think, by going within, by taking some breaths, by maybe tuning out from the waves of life, as we did in the meditation a little bit. I love that analogy of, when we're in the ocean, when we're on the waves, everything is choppy and we can be thrown up and thrown down or spun around, and things are always happening. But the moment and that's life, right? There's a lot going on in life right now. There's a lot of choppiness. There's a lot of fears coming at us. And when we dive deep into the ocean, no matter how crazy the storm is, no matter how intense, there's always that calm and peace at the bottom of the ocean or beneath the waves. And that's, I think, how it is for us. No matter what we're being bombarded with, there is a peace. That's that peace beyond all understanding. There is a joy of being, a state deep within us that we can access and be with. And I think it's so important more than ever right now to be our joyful selves. And that there's nothing wrong, with feeling joyful. Sometimes, I know for me, sometimes it's a little challenging when people around are suffering. Do I have a right to be joyful? And that's the best thing you and I can do, actually, is be joyful. Doesn't mean we're not empathetic. Doesn't mean we don't meet people with compassion. It doesn't even mean that we're not in pain ourselves. Because the beautiful thing about all of us is we have a container within us big enough to hold more than one state at the same time. So we can be in pain. We can be experiencing grief. We can be going through some fear or challenges, and we can find joy in something to help us along the way, right? There's always a bird we can hear singing in the midst of it all, and we can tap into joy. Every day there's a sun that sets, and we can find joy in that. Always, always, we have the beautiful breath within us. We can breathe in and feel that joy. And we do ourselves and everyone around us, I think, a great service when we do that. Let's take a breath right now. The Bhagavad Gita says, a yogi is one to whom a handful of dirt, a lump of clay, and a brick of gold are all the same. Each of them is equally able to help us on our path and equally unable to help us on our path, right? We're no more likely to attain that inner fundamental state of peace and joy through a brick of gold, through a handful of dirt, or through a lump of clay. We're just going to find it through our practice, through our, as the song said, choosing joy. I know there's that Karen Drucker song, I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing joy today. That doesn't mean I might not feel sad. Doesn't mean I might not feel perturbed by what's going on. Doesn't mean I might not be angry at the injustices I'm seeing. It means I'm choosing joy. I'm choosing to come back to that again and again and again. Because that's what lights up every cell in my being. That's what makes me a vibrant energy of love and joy in a world that needs it more than ever. It's almost like that's what we're called to do right now. Forget where I was. Rather than waiting, I mentioned this, if I just had this, if politics would change, right? If this would all go away, then I'd be happy. We can't wait for that. When my finances get better, when I lose the weight, or when whatever happens, even if we're experiencing dis-ease and sickness, when I get well, I'll be joyful. And again, it doesn't negate the suffering that we go through. It means I can choose this joy in the midst of it all. Sadhguru says, if you're miserable in a room alone, chances are you are the cause. Just a chance that it may be, right? Because it's so easy, right? We can be convinced that it's someone or something else that's causing our misery. I mean, we're being bombarded. This is our challenge right now. I say this all the time. Those of us on the spiritual path, those of us that have been reading and studying and praying and learning these new thought principles, now Spirit's saying, all right, what are you going to do with this? Let's cause this mess right now. Let's let you see injustice happen. Let's let you see your finances being threatened. Sorry, I don't mean to be, but let's see all these things going, and can you stand? Can we stand anchored in the teachings? Can we stand anchored in the principles that we read, that we know, that we've been studying? That nothing, no thing can take away Spirit within us. The joy, the peace, the freedom, the abundance that we're born to be, and that there is nothing, no thing greater than Spirit, the divine God, source energy, whatever you call it. There's nothing greater. We cannot be fooled by the world of appearances. We don't deny them, and we may be called to action in some way, but ours is to dwell in that secret place of the Most High and to find our joy and to spread that joy, right? So we ask ourselves, when we're in that room alone, miserable, who am I in that room? Who is that part of me that's in that room miserable? And then we can ask ourselves, who is the I that experiences joy? Who is the I that experiences joy? The I that experiences joy, I think, is that higher self. Because I think when we really have an experience of joy, the boundaries and borders between me and you, or me and nature, or me and music, or poetry, or whatever is evoking that joy, they kind of fall away. You ever notice that? Those moments of joy, one, we're fully present. Secondly, there isn't really a separation. There's just this experience of beauty. I walked into the yoga studio that I practice at the other day, and there was a bunch of out in the front at the front desk. I could hear joyful sounds, and people were kind of gathered around. And as I got closer, I saw that one of the teachers, I guess she hadn't been teaching; she'd been off on pregnancy leave, and she was there with her 3 or 4 month old new baby. And there was all of us were captivated by her. First of all, because she was just joy, right? We only have to look at a newborn or a child. Their natural state is joy, especially in those first year or two. She was particularly joyous. She was a yogini already, born of a yoga mother, I guess, and she was smiling and, coo-cooing back at us all. And as I gazed at her and had that interaction, I'm like, yeah, there's no boundary, there's no border, there's no anything. There's just me and this beautiful little being connecting. That's joy. I know many of you probably experience joy through your pets and animals. That's a big way to experience joy. So it's a state that we allow ourselves to be in. When we lose ourselves in the experience, when we get lost in the experience, and what gets lost? Ego and mind and thoughts and thinking. That's all that falls away. And then there is just this natural state of beingness, melting into pure awareness. That's where joy is. So I'm going to kind of start to finish up with another little story. This is by, let me just make sure I quote the right person. Sri Nityananda Swamiji tells this story. And again, it's a man going to a doctor, interestingly enough. And he says, oh gosh, doctor, I don't know. I'm hurting everywhere. Everywhere I touch, it hurts. I touch my stomach, it hurts. I touch my leg hurts. I touch my head hurts. Touch my knee hurts. It's just everything that I touch hurts. So the doctor, has some concern, so he runs a bunch of tests and does a bunch of scans and eventually comes back and he says to the man, well, I have good news and bad news. And the good news is that your stomach and your head and your knee and all the places that hurt, they're fine. The bad news is that you've broken your finger. And therefore, everything you touch is going to hurt. So here's what he says, right? Understand, when your finger is fractured, every spot you touch is going to seem painful. When you are carrying incompletions inside you, everything in life feels more painful, appears painful. Life itself is not pain. The finger with which you are touching life is causing the pain. So look inside. You need to heal. You need to heal the finger, not try to change life. That says it all, right? Not try to change life. What is the lens that we're looking through? Being in that connected awareness right here, right now, melting and merging into that connection to self and into that joy. And when we do, miraculously, that which previously in our world had been hurting or causing anxiety and stress in our life, it starts to lessen. We know these things, it diminishes the pain in our life. It softens it all. The activist Adriana Marie Brown says, joy is an act of resistance. Joy is an act of resistance. She calls it pleasure activism. I suppose that means that attitude of, I am nothing. It's Viktor Frankl. Nothing, no thing is going to take my divine and inherent birthright away. Nothing and no thing is going to shake me from the core of the joy and the peace and the love that I am born to be. I'm rooted in that. I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing love today. And I'm going to end. And she says, reclaiming pleasure is an important act of reclaiming the wholeness of our lives and remembering the truth of who we are. This is a partial quote from the Hopi chief White Eagle, who wrote a wonderful little speech on what's going on in the world right now. I'm not reading it all, but this is what he says. Don't feel guilty for feeling happy in these difficult times. And he wrote this a few weeks ago, so he's talking. Being sad or angry doesn't help anyone. Resistance is resistance through joy. You have every right to be strong and positive, and there is no other way to do this than to adopt a peaceful, joyful, and radiant attitude. This has nothing to do with alienation or ignorance of the world. It is a strategy of resistance. So let's choose joy. Let's be the joy that we're born to be. Let's remember to just keep coming back, to remember, to practice as we go about our day. In the midst of it all, I'm choosing joy today. Thank you so much.